I bred my first falcon in 1984 from a natural breeding pair of prairie falcons. By 1986, I began to have a bit of success breeding falcons in captivity. Breeding falcons in captivity is a big commitment. It takes a lot of dedication and time. In 1986, I produced a video called The Backyard Falcon Breeder. It was distributed by Bob Dalton throughout the world, helping people to understand how to artificially inseminate falcons. When I began breeding falcons, peregrine falcons were nearly gone and had been placed on the endangered species list. Gyrfalcons were all but impossible to obtain. The only birds available were prairie falcons. Captive breeding was the only answer to being able to have peregrines and gyrfalcons for falconry. Captive breeding has come a long way since its beginnings in the 1980s. We have new technology in the form of incubators, video cameras, and tools for artificial insemination. I'm hoping this video will help would-be breeders with some of the questions they have regarding raptor propagation. Let's talk a little bit about the chambers. For natural pairs, the chamber should be at least 8 feet by 10 feet and at least 8 feet high. Cocoa mat doormats make perfect perching material and can be placed on the wall for wall perches. Pea gravel can be used for floors and nest ledges. Make sure you get rounded pea gravel, not crushed. This book, called Falcon Propagation, produced by the Peregrine Fund, edited by Jim Weaver and Tom Cade, is an excellent guide to help you with your captive breeding. It is not easy to get a natural breeding pair. Video cameras are a must to determine if the pair is copulating. If they are not, the only answer is artificial insemination. If you have chambers that have other chambers next to them, you must make sure that there are no openings between them. Natural pairs, especially the tiercels, become very aggressive and will reach through a knothole to grab another falcon. When building your chambers, be sure to design them for easy cleaning. Breeding raptors in captivity is a long commitment and requires a lot of husbandry. Imprint chambers can be smaller, and it is important to have a nest ledge that is low enough to allow you to do the AI with a willing female that will stand for copulation. I must admit, I never had much luck training jerkins to deposit semen on a semen hat. Most of the jerkins that I had through the 30 years of breeding, I had to strip. They got very used to it and actually didn't mind it at all. After stripping, I would always feed them, and this is how I produced over 200 gyr peregrines, was through stripping the tiercels. In this video, I'm showing a peregrine falcon that I got from a zoo that was crippled. They had it in with snowy owls. This bird, I'm showing how we take the semen from it, catching the bird up. This bird was in terrible condition when I got it, but I actually got it back to health and was able to make a lot of birds from it. Nice tiercel in autumn. We're wrapping the tiercel in a towel. And then a gentle massage is applied. Just very gentle, bending the tail backwards as you do it, and then it's the gentle pressure on the cloaca to bring the semen to where it can be collected in a capillary tube. Very light pressure here, just a little pressure, and the semen comes forth, and you can collect it up in a capillary tube. This is how I did it through all the years. They probably have better techniques now, but this worked. I found that if you hold two capillary tubes side by side, this is a good way to do it because you get all the semen and you don't have to switch and get another tube. So you just hold two tubes side by side. and this is probably a better way to collect semen. I always feed the tercels after stripping them. This keeps them in a routine. Here I'm stripping a tercel peels. Again, the bird is gently wrapped. This is how I did it. I'm sure there are other techniques that may work better, but this always worked for me. You need to have an assistant with the capillary tubes to collect the semen. So it's just a gentle massage, tail slightly bent backwards. Keep the feathers out of the way, and then just gentle pressure on the cloaca to bring the semen to where you can collect it. In order to get fertile eggs from a natural pair that is not copulating, you need to know exactly when the female lays her first egg and AI the female within 1 hour of laying the egg. This AI must be into the oviduct. In this video here, we're showing how we invert the oviduct from a falcon. Gentle but firm pressure is placed on the abdomen. Slowly, the oviduct will come out, and you will see it. It's a very different looking material. Looks like it's made of bubble gum, and it's very sensitive. Do not touch the oviduct. I use a plunger, place the capillary tube into the plunger. The plunger has a hole at the top of the plunger. You must cover that with your finger, and then once the oviduct is out, it's placed into the oviduct gently, and then the semen is put into it, and then it is very important that this operation be done within 1 hour after the bird lays the egg. If you don't know when the bird laid the egg, you probably shouldn't do this and wait till it lays the next egg and then do it within 1 hour of the egg. If you do this, the following egg should be fertile. With a chamber pair that is not copulating, I do this procedure after the first 2 eggs, pulling the first egg as you know it's not fertile and letting the birds complete a clutch. Again, here we are inverting the oviduct on a prairie falcon. The capillary tubes that I used always had polished ends, so they were smooth and wouldn't hurt the bird. I much prefer AIing a good imprint female that will stand for copulation. This is a much easier operation, just putting it into the cloaca and making sure the bird pulsates and sucks in the semen. I inseminate daily up until the 3rd or 4th egg. Here I am weighing a fresh egg to determine the fresh egg weight. A graph is made to determine the amount of weight the egg should lose before hatching. It was my experience that without 10 days of natural incubation, the eggs were almost impossible to hatch in the incubator. So I gave them either 10 days under the falcon or 10 days under a cochin chicken. The chickens are managed where they are taken out of a lockbox once a day for an hour break. The eggs are taken in and weighed and candled during this time. Always use an egg carton to transport eggs. If you try to carry them in your hands, something will go wrong. I had a paddle lock fall and hit 2 peregrine eggs in my bare hand one time and break them. So you always want to make sure you don't have something go wrong, because it will. So use an egg carton to transport your eggs to and from candling. Once the chickens have had an hour break off the eggs, I put them back on. But during this time, I make sure the lock boxes are closed, because the chickens will try to get back on the eggs themselves. If you get 2 chickens in the same box, they might fight and break an egg, so you just got to be on top of it and make sure that no accidents can happen. Each egg is given a number written on the large end of the egg with a marker and logged into a journal so you don't forget where it came from. You only need to candle the eggs after they've had 8 to 10 days of incubation to determine if they're fertile. And at this point, they can be placed into an incubator and have pretty good success. After 10 days of natural incubation, the eggs do well in an incubator because the network of blood vessels of the embryo have developed enough to withstand a change in their environment. The cochin chickens are then gently placed back in the boxes and allowed to resume incubation. They are then locked in the box for 23 hours until their next break. Like I said, I only give the eggs 10 days of natural incubation. This natural incubation is important. In the wild, the egg comes against the mother's brood patch, creating a thermal gradient where the egg is actually warmer on one side than the other. Here we see a thermal gradient incubator built by Les Boyd, a true pioneer in captive breeding. Neoprene rubber with water above in a plexiglass case created a brood patch that came down and touched the egg, giving it the thermal gradient where it was warmer on the top than the bottom. You should thoroughly clean your hands before ever touching the eggs. I used Rolex incubators, equipped with an override system to make sure that they couldn't overheat. I hand turned the eggs every 3 to 4 hours, keeping a log of which way they were turned, turning them opposite directions on each turning. It takes approximately 31 days for a falcon egg to pip. Once the pip has been made, which is a small hole in the egg, it takes anywhere from 8 to 24 hours for the chick to fully hatch. Once hatched, remove the eggshell. I apply a mild antibiotic ointment to the navel and look at the chick to make sure it doesn't have any debris on it that will dry on it and cause it a problem and clean it up. It's left in the incubator until it's completely dry, and then it'll be moved into a K-pad brooder. The chick is not fed till 8 or 10 hours after hatching. Its first feeding is mashed up quail breast and very softened and moistened with non-lactated ringer solution. The little chick is given no more than 3 bites. You never want to overfeed a newly hatched chick. Probably one of the biggest causes of chick mortality is to overfeed a chick that hasn't developed a digestive system yet. The digestive system takes time to get going, and if you overfeed them, they will shut down and die. So 3 bites, and even though the chick may continue to beg, no more than 4 bites at the very most. They will begin to eat as they grow. Space out the feeding 4 hours between feedings, and do not feed through the night. Let them completely empty out at dark until daylight. When the chicks are 4 to 5 days old, they need to be moved back in with an adult to avoid imprinting. Imprinting takes place in the first 10 days of a bird's life, and so the little chicks need to be put back with the adults, and you need to have an adult that is incubating. You remove the eggs, put the chicks back in, and they will hatch them. I went through a lot learning all of this and found that in the end, it's much easier to just inseminate the females and let them hatch their own eggs, raise their own young. This works well. Artificial chambers can get very hot in the summer. To help the chicks stay cool, I filled gallon water jugs with water, froze them, and then cut out this part with a razor knife, placed them in the ledge. As the ice melts, the chicks can reach in and drink. But in hot weather in a chamber, the chicks don't do well, so put the ice in there, and the chicks will get up against it to stay cool. Of course, you'd only do this with chicks that are 3 weeks or older, and not with birds that are being brooded, and only during the hot weather. It's important that before doing AI, you splash on a little Hawk cologne. As the years went by, I did away with my incubators, doing cooperative AI with the female imprints, letting them hatch their eggs, putting quail in, and taking out gyr peregrines. I learned after making several imprints that double clutching is not worth the trouble. You want your birds to be raised by an adult so that they can turn into a good falconry bird. Through the years, I made a lot of beautiful falcons. Half of the reward of doing this is just seeing these beautiful birds that you've created. It was a hard thing to give up breeding, but I'm glad I did, as in my later years I don't want to be tied down. When you're breeding falcons, you are tied down from March through September. Finding homes for them, feeding them, caring for them, all the work that goes into breeding. When you get a bird from a captive breeding project, you should thank the breeder. He has certainly earned whatever you paid him for it, and it probably wasn't enough. It is a true dedication based on love and genuine interest in falconry that people take this commitment to breed falcons. It is not an easy task, and without captive breeding, to safeguard falconry, we could be in big trouble. A few more images of some of the falcons that I bred through the 30 years that I was a propagator. It's important as a breeder you look forward to the future. You always have to keep certain birds back so that your project will remain young in the future. I bred lots of hybrids and found that breeding a hybrid to a purebred is not a good idea. You generally don't get a very good bird. Only the crosses the first time from a pure species to another pure species will give you the hybrid vigor and provide a good bird. Gyr peregrines was really what I was interested in, and I didn't find that the other hybrids were any better than a pure species.